Hello and welcome to the final episode of 2025 of a DFO Rundown Insider Edition, a presentation of Bet365. Irfaan Gaffar here in Vancouver. That's David Pagnotta in Toronto. Dave, the last day of 2025 as we sit here and record this show, December 31st, and Hockey Canada announces its team for the Olympics in Italy in 2026. There were plenty of roster debates before this started. There will continue to be plenty of roster debates leading up until Game 1, Game 2, and even after, if they go on to win the gold medal, does Canada. People are going to talk about who is and who is not on the team. Let me ask you this, because there are some surprises on this roster. You know, you see no Sam Bennett, you see, no Connor Bedard because of the injury. But I want to put it to you this way. What do you think and where do you feel the toughest decision was?
Well, first of all, Doug Armstrong discussed this and mentioned the fact that they were building a team here. This wasn't just the best players on the planet. They were the best Canadians on the planet. They were trying to form a team. So specific guys that fit specific roles as part of the style of John Cooper and his coaching staff, those are the guys that they feel this 25-man roster is the one that fits best within what they're looking to do in Milan coming in February. I think the biggest surprise is Sam Bennett. I had him on my roster. I think a lot of people did. But I think it's a combination of things. One, his first half of the season, first 2 months of the season were rough. Let's call a spade, and let's be honest about that. Sam Bennett did not have a good October and good November in the National Hockey League performance-wise. Yeah, he's done great things in the Stanley Cup. Yes, he's in final. Yes, he was a big contributor for Four Nations as well for Canada. But it really took him a couple of months to get going here, and I think that was part of kind of the thought process. He's got 17 points in 15 games or something around that. Might be 19 and 17, whatever the numbers are, in December. But prior to that, it was a tough look and offensively for him. Now, yeah, Florida struggled overall, but everybody kind of got going at a later point. The fact that they've got Tom Wilson on this team, what he's been capable of doing the last few years, as well as what he's accomplished this season with the Capitals, I think that and Bo Horvat decision to bring him on to this roster factored into the ultimate decision to not have Sam Bennett as part of it. In fact, I got a text message during the announcements that basically suggested that it came down to, at the end of it, Sam Bennett or Bo Horvat on this roster, which also leads me to believe, clearly, that Anthony Cirelli was certainly as part of the mindset to be there, and his two-way style and his PK ability, along with Brendan Hagel, what they were doing in Tampa, having John Cooper there, he trusts them. That's a big factor for those guys, especially Cirelli, being named to the team. He may not start, he may be an extra, but having that comfortable presence on that roster from a coaching perspective played a factor. But it sounds like overall this came down to Horvat or Bennett, and they went with a little bit more of the offensive juice.
Yeah, and very quickly, because I don't want to spend too much time on this because everyone else will, but look at, it's true. You look at the difference in game, right? Four Nations was officiated by NHL officials, NHL rules. You go to the Olympics, that is a little bit different. No fighting. The penalties are called a lot more differently. You get kicked out of a game for doing certain things. You think that, look, Tom Wilson obviously plays his game on the edge, but I think Sam Bennett might be a little bit more on the edge than a guy like Tom Wilson.
Yeah, and it's a great point, and I think that factors in too. And you're right, like we're not going to get those 9 seconds Canada-US that we had in Four Nations in Olympics. You can't do that. You can't drop the mitts. Not only you get kicked out of the game, you get suspended. So, yeah, I think that line, I think Tom Wilson has been doing that a little bit better. People are going to scoff at this, but that's the truth. He's been doing it better in the last few years than Bennett has, and I think that factored in kind of as well. I don't know if the injury to Connor Bedard played a significant role in determining whether or not he'd be part of this team. I think like they've got the reserve list or their standby list that they've got. I think Matthew Schaefer is like first up on the D side. I'm not sure exactly where things go. Now, Doug Armstrong did say, based on the style of player, that'll determine next man up. if there are injuries over these next 5 weeks going into the Olympic break. And I think Bedard will be part of that in some fashion. I think he'd be playing on the wing regardless. But I think Canada's group is comfortable with this. There's obviously a lot of trust in Jordan Binnington as well and what he can do at top tier stage level. And then, of course, Darcy Kemper and Logan Thompson in net. I think they're comfortable with their goaltending. I know the Avs fans aren't too happy not having one of their guys, but I think Canada was pretty happy with their decision process on the back end and in net.
No matter which way you look at this team, someone is always going to have something to say about this Canadian roster, but it's stacked. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. This roster's stacked top to bottom. There's good players, and there might be even better players that aren't on the team. So it is what it is, and they're going to go.
And let me add this. Let me just add this for everybody that's kind of questioning the decision process from the offense. There are 15 guys in the NHL right now with 20 or more goals. 9 of them are Canadian.
Yeah,
7 of those Canadians are on the Olympic roster.
Yeah,
Geeky and Wyatt Johnson are not. So I think they're comfortable with the level of offense they got.
Yeah, I think they're fine too. All right, Dave, let's get to some National Hockey League stuff as we move away from the international. Okay, so we've seen this in the past with players. Things aren't going well for their team. Their name has been brought up continuously in trade rumors. The team still continues to not do well. We've seen players go to agents and say, okay, let's do it. Let's get it done. I'm ready. I know we've talked about it, and I know things are starting to play out. Before I get hurt or before something happens, let's get this done. And I'm looking at Kiefer Sherwood here. Just because the way that he plays, his style of game, he's averaging 7 to 9 hits a game, 5 to 6 shots a game over the last couple of weeks. Quinn Hughes went to his agent and said, I want out. I mean, that happened here in Vancouver. What do you think the next steps are for Kiefer Sherwood and the Vancouver Canucks and kind of where they're at involving this player?
Yeah, just jumping on before we did this, I was going back and forth with a couple people about his situation, and it sounds like over this current week, so over the last few days, things have picked up with respect to Kiefer Sherwood and the discussions that are going on out there. I thought, I asked a couple of these people that I was just texting with, is the timeline closer to Olympic break, or can we see something at some point in January? Both messages I got were, don't be surprised if something happens sooner than later. So it sounds like there is momentum with respect to Kiefer Sherwood trade discussions. Look, the Canucks don't want to put themselves in a position where they overplay their hand in this one. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows he's available. Everybody knows what the price tag is and the different variations tied to it, first round pick plus or equivalent value. That's what the Canucks are looking for in this. And the teams that were circling before have re-engaged. The Canucks have engaged in conversations. And the 2 messages I got literally before jumping on here with you, don't be surprised if something happens in the first half of January. So over the next week or 2, maybe even sooner, depending on how these conversations go. But it does seem like the finality of this situation is he will be moved. It's just a matter of how quickly and can the Canucks maximize on what their return is going to be.
Well, let me just put it this way. If I am a team that is a Stanley Cup contender, and I know that getting a guy like Kiefer Sherwood, 19 goals last season, 16 already this year, the way that he plays at $1.5 million is going to put me over the edge to go and win a Stanley Cup, what's a first-round pick this year? If you're going to end up picking 28, 29, 30, 31, or 32, what is the worth it? If Kiefer Sherwood's going to go and be a guy that might be able to put you over that edge and win you a Stanley Cup, I don't think there should be an issue with any team. So it's interesting to hear that, you say teams are starting to re-engage, because I think there are 2 different deadlines. I really do. I think that there's before the Olympic break a deadline, and then obviously another roster freeze, and then there's going to be a deadline that is the trade deadline after the Olympics. All right, Andrew Mangiapane. Hasn't really worked out well there in Edmonton for the former Flame. What's next?
A new home. They started having those conversations during the break, or during the freeze, I should say, not the break. And Edmonton's been actively shopping them. And it's been reported, and it's my understanding as well, that his agent, Alain is been given permission at some point to get involved in some of these discussions, some of the trade discussions. This is all Stan Bowman now. but I believe the agent was part of those talks. And I believe that there's been some progress towards it. Now, he was scratched, and there's, depending who you talk to, he was supposed to play, he wasn't supposed to play. Bottom line is, they're trying to find a new home for Andrew Mangiapane, who has a $3.6 million cap hit. And how it was described to me is he's not looking for, he obviously wants the opportunity to win a Stanley Cup, but it's the best fit for him. That's how it was described to me, was finding the best fit overall for him to maximize his talent and exploit his talent. Like, he was, it didn't work out, obviously, in Edmonton, hasn't worked out, and he was bounced around the lineup. There wasn't solid footing. He wants to have that wherever he ends up, be it on another contender or, a bubble team. I think he's open to a number of different options here, and talks have progressed. Will we see something in the first half of January? I think the preference is yes, but ultimately this is now up to Stan Bowman after the agent's been involved in some of these discussions as well.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are an interesting bunch right now. They have been all season long. Obviously, you watch them closely, as do most people in your area. And when things go bad, they go really bad for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So injuries now mounting for this team. What is Brad Treliving and his team thinking? Like, do they have any cap flexibility? Will they have any cap flexibility moving forward? What's going on in Toronto?
Yeah, well, this is what they're trying to figure out here. So this morning, Craig Berube indicated, their head coach announced that it's now groin injury that is plaguing Chris Tanev, and that he's going to be out and miss significant time. Dakota Joshua, we know he's got a kidney issue, ruptured, blood in the urine. That's never a good sign. And that's something that is going to result in him also missing significant time. Now, what they're trying to figure out and plan on figuring out over this next, stretch here, be it a week or whatever, is will these guys be able to play during the regular season at the very least? If not, it opens up cap space for the Maple Leafs. Now, yes, there's the playoff cap space, and the roster that you line, or the lineup that you put out on the ice, has to be cap compliant in the playoffs. We all understand that now. But teams can still be over the cap overall come playoff time. And if both or either of these players are out, that's going to free up over $3 million if they're done for the regular season, over $3 million for them to utilize to go out there and make potential additions to this club. Joshua's cap hit's a little over 3.5, something in that range. We know that Tanev is higher. So the max now is based on last season's overall average, 3.8 in that range that they could use on Tanev, and potentially 3+ on Joshua if they're done for the regular season. So they have to figure that out. That's what they want to determine for this season, for this next week. And that's going to give Brad Treliving a little bit of potential ammo, at least cap-wise, to try to make some additions to this club. He's been looking. We've talked about it before. He wants to address the D, bring in a mobile guy. He's trying to find somebody that slots into the top 6. They may have some cap flexibility to do that. And if they play the way they played on Tuesday against New Jersey, then that's a good sign overall. But it's a depleted roster. We'll see where things go. Austin Matthews was back on the ice this morning. Good sign after blocking that shot. I was told there's no break, just a bad bruise. So he'll be back in relative short order, I would imagine. But it's bleak with Joshua and Tanev. But it gives Toronto the potential of added cap space to see if they can somewhat add to this roster.
Yeah, Sheldon Keefe basically saying, I'm paraphrasing, his team needs to grow a pair after that Toronto Maple Leafs loss.
They do.
But it is true. Okay, we've done 11 of these episodes in our 11th right now, and we haven't had an episode where we don't talk about the Carolina Hurricanes, and we're not going to start now. What's happening with that goaltending situation in Carolina? It feels like this team cannot waste this year. Like they cannot. Right. This is a year with the East. You don't really know what can happen. And Carolina is in a position as such where a goaltender and a quality goaltender, that might be the piece for them.
This one's really, I'm really curious to see what they end up doing here because, we know Kochekov's done for the season.
Yep.
Are they going to ride Bussy? Is it going to be Freddie? How are they going to, roll with this? And we've talked about how they're not afraid to go big fish hunting, and they're going to look. And it wouldn't surprise me. And I do think they're looking at other areas. but it wouldn't surprise me if an opportunity arose where they can make an impact addition in net, that they wouldn't take a swing at that and a shot at that. We talked about it last week, how they were part of Phil Deneau discussions. They were willing to move out Jesperi Kotkaniemi in a deal. LA didn't want that. Apparently, Kotkaniemi's been basically dangled for quite some time here because of his cap hit and term, more so the cap hit, because you got to be cap compliant, you got to move out money. But it sounds like that's a piece that they've been trying to dangle for a while. I wonder if they utilize that, be it in a move for other additions on the roster, or try to combo something with one of their goalies, with Freddie or whomever, to further upgrade themselves between the pipes. It's an interesting dynamic here for them and how they navigate the trade waters. But again, they've proven, and Eric Tulsi, full credit, not afraid to take swings. We talked about a pair with New Jersey on the ice. Their management team's got a pretty big pair in Carolina and willing to take those swings. If it's goaltending again, it wouldn't shock anybody.
A couple of contract situations I wanted to get to you with. We've talked about this player before. We actually had his agent on in Brian Bartlett, and I think it was our second or third episode he joined us. And that's Alex Tuch. And, things were kind of stopped, maybe ongoing with him and the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres are a wagon now. Jarmo Kekalainen came in and said, we can make the playoffs this year. Shot a life into that team. But Alex Tuch, and it seems like the indication is that he always wanted to stay and get an extension done there. Is there any room for that in Buffalo with Jarmo now at the helm?
If the Sabres and Jarmo are comfortable making him the highest paid forward on the team by a decent margin, then yes, there is.
Okay.
He wants 10 plus. That's every indication that I've been given from people around the league is he's in that 10 to 11 range, be it now or come July. That's likely where he's projected to be. Now, maybe it's a little bit closer to the 10 range per year if he ends up staying. But what I do know, and I wrote about this week as well, Jarmo Kekalainen and Tuch's camp, led by Brian Bartlett, they've had kind of an introductory conversation. Just you're the new guy. Where's your mindset at? Let's reconvene. And that discussion, that more formal discussion, will begin in the early part of January and then carry out. I think Jarmo's mindset's a little bit different than what Adams had. I don't think Adams was willing to go that high in terms of AAV. I think there's a little bit more of an extended palette, I guess, from Jarmo to do that. But to what extent? Is it full term? Is it mid-10s? Is it high 10s? Is it closer to 11? They haven't gotten there yet. But those discussions are going to happen over the course of January. And I think from Buffalo's perspective, they want to know this month or this coming month in January, the realistic shot they have at keeping Tuch or not. They can win another 9 in a row. If they don't feel comfortable that he's going to stay, then I think they're going to explore the market. If they feel they can get something done here over these next, 3 to 4 weeks, then I think that's going to be the focal point, and they kind of tell everybody else, no, we're focused on keeping him. But
well, I mean, you just said
it. Sabres fan,
yeah. You just said it. You said if they want to make him the highest paid forward on the team, then he'll stay. And I think that's just it. At the end of the day, it's always if the dollars make the most sense, then the player's likely to stay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's would he take less to stay in Buffalo than join another team via free agency? I believe he would, but to what degree? Are we talking? I don't think he's willing to take $9 million, $8 million in Buffalo when he can potentially get $10, $11 million in free agency. I don't think we're talking about that type of a discount. I think we're talking about something that the Montreal Canadiens have implemented with a lot of their young guys. Take $500,000 less, take $250,000. If we get a bunch of you that are willing to take just a fraction less, then that accumulates, and that's $1, $2, $3 million on the cap that we save overall collectively that we can utilize to improve this team, and then try to not just win a cup now, but do so over an extended period. So I think that's kind of where the thought process is for some of these teams now, and especially with Buffalo with Tuch. We'd like you to take a little bit of a haircut, but we're not expecting a giant slice here. Let's be realistic. And I think this is where this conversation in January is going to show just how realistic the Sabres are in trying to keep him.
Yeah, it's always so interesting to me about cap manipulation too. It's like, okay, we want you to take less, but we'll give you $30 million in the first 2 years via signing bonus. Like, I mean, there are ways of doing these things. Christian Dvorak, Christian Dvorak. Just saw him play the Vancouver Canucks the other night. Hell of a player. Him and Trevor Zegras have definitely found some chemistry there with Rick Tocchet at the helm. Extension likely or unlikely, and what does it look like?
Seems very likely.
Okay.
Probably he's at $5.4 million right now. He signed a 1-year deal at that to join the Flyers. It sounds like 3 years in that 5.5 range is realistic, and I think that's what they've been talking about. Now numbers have gone back and forth: 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. The dollars have been affected, but I think that the sweet spot is in and around kind of the 3-year mark at that. $16-17 million range. Maybe it jumps a little bit. But it seems like there's been a lot of progress there. And it wouldn't surprise me if in the next even few days here, as we flip into January, that we see some type of announcement of them getting there. So there's, as I said, a lot of progress. They're getting there. That's kind of checkbox 1 for them. You mentioned Zegras. There's another guy they've been talking contract with as well. I don't know if it's as further along, or as far along, I should say, as Dvorak. It looks like that's set. But Zegras and the Flyers are hoping to make up some progress on their own as we get into January also.
For the final time in 2025, my good friend David, anything else you would like to get off your chest when it comes to hockey? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for defining that. Yes. Look, I think there's going to be more activity. I should say more action once we flip into January. Now, I'm curious if things do progress positively with Vancouver and their Sherwood discussions with other teams, if that puts other clubs in position to kind of escalate their talks. You touched on Jersey before and, having to have a pair. They also need a pair of goal scorers. Things have not been... That's been effectively their Achilles this year. They're not scoring, and case in point, losing 4-0 to Toronto the other night. They didn't look good. I was at that game. They were not nearly impressive as they have been previously, and they're looking for goal scoring. And one of the names that was involved reportedly in the Quinn Hughes discussions was Dawson Mercer. He's only 24. There's a lot of upside to this kid still. He's got 10 goals or 11 goals on the season. It sounds like, because of also a team that has a lot of no trade and no movement clauses, he doesn't right now. It sounds like he's a piece that if they can bring in a fully impactful scorer, like a top 6 legitimate goal scoring threat, that they would consider moving Mercer as part of that. So that's something that I want to keep tabs on, and I think other teams will as well, to see if they get an opportunity to bring in a young kid who can score in a guy like Dawson Mercer, and it's going to cost you an impactful goal scorer now. I think some teams would consider that, and that's something that I'm curious to see how Tom Fitzgerald navigates those waters.
Well, it's going to have a tough time navigating it because it's almost impossible for them to move money out with what you just said. So many guys with no movement clauses anyways. Yeah. The guys didn't, and I think guys in the last little bit have exercised their no movement clauses in Jersey when asked about potentially being moved to create room to make money to bring in a player like maybe a Quinn Hughes. I think that there were players on that team that said, yeah, I don't really want to leave Jersey. There's a reason why I have this no movement clause, and I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, look, if I think Dougie Hamilton could have been traded by now if it was to one of the teams not on this. He's got a 10-team trade list. I think there was a deal there earlier this season that could have seen him moved out. But it wasn't on his preferred list, and they still have to navigate that as well. So you're right. Like that's occurred. We'll see kind of where that goes. Mercer's $3-4 million, something along those lines. So is the team willing to eat? We know there is interest in Steven Stamkos, and Stammer's game has really picked up the last little while, this month at least. How much is Nashville willing to retain? And is there a fit there potentially with the Devils? Can they make something work for a guy like Steven Stamkos? So we'll see. We'll see how creative these teams get and these managers get over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. we saw the big domino fall. We've seen some trickle effects from it. Let's see if like Sherwood, for example, is the next guy that I'm looking. Let's see if that knocks a few more dominoes down for us.
All right, David, you're the best. Thank you very much. I'm going to end 2025 with a bet that you won't be able to cash until 2026 because that's just the way I like to do things. So as for our Bet 365 bet, I'm going to go to the Olympics. And right now, you can get Team Canada to win the gold medal at plus 140. Team USA is at plus 200, but Team Canada to win the gold medal at plus 140. That's a little bit more than doubling your money. So some very good odds there for Team Canada to go and win the Olympics. Obviously, the roster just came out. Team USA's will be a little bit, or should be right after the new year, which should be an interesting lineup as well. They might have the same team, or if around the same team as Four Nations, but the player that they're getting is going to be Quinn Hughes, and that makes that team a hell of a lot better. Anyways, whatever you bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Yeah. Download the app, get it on the game, use code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. David, thank you very much for this. Happy New Year to you and your family. Buddy. Jacob, you as well. Thank you for doing this. And to everyone watching, a very happy New Year. Mix in a water, and we'll talk to you in 2026.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.